report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. You got Craig and TK and Heather D tuned in at the fish report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Russia, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Welcome, everyone, to another Fish Report Live. I'm Craig Fissinger. That's Ken Francis. Back in the sound room, we've got back there TK and Heavy D. We're going to be joining those two guys here in just a little bit. And Ken, after our show ended last week, it was kind of a rough weather week, actually a rough couple of days there, a few days to get any kind of spring sports in, whether it was baseball, softball, track and field. Actually couldn't play anything till Tuesday. And I know you told me your son missed, a number of games, 5-6 games?
Yes, he did. 6 games, Craig. It was just absolutely miserable weather last week. It was cold, it was rainy, and it was really windy. The diamonds were wet. It was too cold to run. It was too wet to play ball. It was too cold to play ball. And just a miserable week, Craig. But the good thing is, like all springs in Ohio are, it turns around, and it did this week. Teams are getting out on the fields this week, Craig, and a lot of baseball and track meets ahead of us.
All right, well, speaking of bad weather and speaking of baseball, tonight's poll question is about just that, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Craig. We're going to ask our listeners tonight. The OHSA has come up with the regular season baseball schedule where it starts on March 26th and concludes with the state tournament on June 4th. In your opinion, listeners, should the OHSA keep it the same as it currently is, or, as some people are proposing, move everything back a month and start late April and end in early July?
Interesting question. Like to hear from our viewers on that. And if you're watching us on the Fish Report Live page right now, you can scroll down, help us answer that poll question, and check the results out. If you're watching us on NK Telco or Game Face Ohio, we will have those results for you at the end of the show. And, Ken, like I said, getting back to playing some baseball right now. Got a chance last night to stop in at Fairlawn, check out an SCAL game, Jackson Center versus Fairlawn. Watch that a little bit. Read in the paper this morning where Houston pitcher Zach Jolly set the Houston career strikeout record in a losing effort against Fort Loramie. And then I also have been told that maybe one of the best pitchers in the area just might be up in Anna.
Yes, he is, Craig. I've seen Anna's senior Alex Brinkman, Craig. I've seen him on the mound a few times last year. I've kind of followed his performance also over the summer. He's a hard-throwing right-hander, Craig. He's got a lot of action on his fastball, throws in the mid to upper 80s. He's already signed to play Division I baseball at Bowling Green State University. Been injured, Craig, most of the season, but I seen he pitched last night. He finally took the mound for the first time all year against Covington. Looked like he threw about 4 innings, Craig. So he's back, and opposing teams, when you play Anna, if he takes the mound, you're going to have to try to manufacture what we can because he's not an easy guy to score runs off of.
All right, well, speaking of bad weather and good pitchers, I guess, one team that's got a lot of good pitchers right now, young pitchers actually, is the Fort Loramie Redskins, playing very well right now. We're happy to have one of our guests live on the phone tonight, and that is the head coach of the Fort Loramie Redskins, Bill Sturwold. Coach, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Good, Bill.
Doing well. Hey, listen, we were just talking about bad weather and the spring sports of baseball, and we mentioned track and field as well, but, Press Pros Magazine had an interesting article last week. Of course, Sonny Folks, I know you know him well. He's been harping on this for years, but he's actually, he proposes moving the baseball season back a little bit from actually May through July. And I wanted to get your opinion on that from a coaching perspective. What are your thoughts on a proposal like that?
I think it's a terrible idea. It's just going to shorten up our time to play baseball. I know it's a little chilly early, but seniors are going to want to go on senior trips, and kids don't miss football practice. They would miss baseball to go on their family vacations. I just think it would be a disaster.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. May is already a busy month with kids getting ready to graduate and all that, and you get into July. You're right. You got vacations and summer distractions, so that would be awfully hard to pull off. But I know he persists on that whole idea in his articles that he writes on the website there. But when you're dealing with cold weather, Coach, like we have been here in the last week or so, kind of an odd question, but I know it's tough to play in just from being out there and kind of being miserable a little bit. But what about some of the equipment? Like, you're dealing with some of those bats. Can you even use those when it gets down to, let's say, 40 degrees or so? Does any effect on the equipment there?
No, it doesn't affect the bats. The bats have been dead in the last 4 or 5 years, so we haven't had a dented or cracked bat since they went to the BB Corps. So I don't see that as being an issue. The fans, it's a little chilly for them, but as for the kids, I mean, the Loramie game, it was chilly, but that was a very well-played game. I think each team only had one error, and I know every kid on each dugout would have been disappointed if we wouldn't have played that day.
Coach, hi, this is Ken. I want to talk a little bit about your team right now that you have this year. Of course, you got some good seniors on your team, but I first want to talk about some of your younger talent. Actually, you and I talked in the off-season last year, and I bragged up your current then 8th grade class, which are now your freshmen. And I mentioned some names like Billing and Mesher and Ratterman and Werman and Rosengarten. But one name I did not mention to you that night was a young pitcher by the name of Jared Mittendorf. He's obviously taken the league by storm. He's won some big games this year already for you. He shut down a good Russia team. He actually held a very good Coldwater team in check as well. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen in your freshman class this year, and especially the crafty left-hander Jared Mittendorf.
Well, I'll talk about Jared first. He's got a high baseball IQ, as do the rest of those guys in that group. But I'm focusing. We got a very selfish group of seniors, and they're put the egos on check, and they're allowing the freshmen to do a lot of the pitching because those kids they started throwing. I know Bill and Mendorf, they were throwing in January, so their arms are ready, and with the weather warming up, the other guys will be catching up to them. So we'll see how it plays out, but I'm going to focus. We got a very good senior class, and that's kind of where the recognition needs to be, I believe.
Let's talk about that senior class just a little bit here, Coach. Give us a few names in particular. Who has stepped up to become the leader of this Redskin team?
I think Drew Werman bats leadoff for us. He's quarterback on the football, and he stepped up in the basketball for the basketball team. And he's not real vocal, but he's kind of does it without. He lets his actions do his speaking.
Coach, you've got a busy weekend coming up. Of course, you had a lot of games canceled just like everybody else has. You got games Thursday night, you got games Friday night, and then you got a big doubleheader Saturday over in Versailles called the Zach Richard Classic. Let's talk a little bit about this. I know you and myself actually got to play a lot of ball back in the day with the Richard boys, and that whole Richard family kind of holds a special place in our heart. But tell us a little bit about how special this tournament is in being able to participate in it.
Well, like you said, I've known Mark and played with him and the whole family, basically. And Zach, he probably had one of the best days ever at Fort Loramie. He hit 3 home runs and 1 doubleheader against us, and he's just phenomenal. And we've basically seen Mark dragging him around the ball games when we were playing for Myers Garage and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a good day. It's going to be good baseball anytime you go over to Versailles. And Cincinnati Turpin is coached by one of Zach's teammates from Xavier, so that's where the connection comes from Turpin. And they play good baseball, so we have to play well when we go over there.
Coach, obviously Versailles is in it. Who's the 4th team that participates in that tournament?
It's just a 3-way. Fort Loramie will play Versailles at 10, then Turpin at 12:30, then Versailles will finish up. It's just 3 teams.
Okay.
Hey, Coach, we got one more question before we let you go, but Ken mentioned playing ball with you back in the day, and you mentioned that is slow pitch softball, and you mentioned being sponsored back then by Myers Garage. Ken was actually telling us a few stories about when you guys used to play together, what it's been like 30 years ago, and probably not any stories that I care to repeat on the air here right now, but you got to tell me, did you have more fun back then 30 years ago, or are you having more fun now coaching baseball?
Oh, it's always fun. anytime you go to the ball diamond, it feels like it's recess with a bunch of your buddies. So, yeah, we got a 30-year party at Myers in August, so we'll talk about all them good times then.
Well, listen, Coach, I appreciate you being on our show tonight. You got a lot of talent up there in Fort Loramie again this year. Best of luck to you the rest of the year, and hopefully the weather cooperates and we can all get a lot of baseball games in between now and the end of May.
All righty. Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yep.
All right, good stuff. And that was the head coach of the Fort Loramie Redskins, Bill Sturwold. And Ken, like I said, playing pretty well right now. I know it's kind of hard to keep track of records with games getting canceled and rescheduled and all that. I think Loramie's sitting at about 5-2 right now. You mentioned them beating Russia a little bit earlier this year. It's going to be fun to see a rematch against that team, though.
Yeah, well, Craig, and you know, we talked about Anna before. Anna's got a very good team. They're Division III, of course, and you know, Russia, Loramie, Anna, those three teams are going to battle it out. Kind of becomes some strategy involved there, depending on who you play when, and if you can throw your top pitchers against the same team. So, going to be an interesting season, especially with all the rain out, the makeup games, Craig. But you know, before long, it'll be tournament draw, and that's when the real chips will get laid down there. But Coach Sturwold, I've known him for a long time, Craig. He's a winner. He knows how to win. He does a great job coaching over there at Fort Loramie, and we'll see what happens as the season pans out. I'm sure Coach Flippo and Russia and the other Division IV coaches are all looking forward to a shot and a nice postseason tournament run.
Yeah, and of course, Coach Flippo at Russia was an assistant coach of Coach Sturwold's not too long ago.
Yes, he was. He was the assistant coach for many years, along with still current assistant coach Mike Shields, also from Russia. So big Russia connection over there in Fort Loramie, kind of builds that rivalry up quite a bit. You know, last year the two teams got together 3 times and played, and of course twice in the league and in tournament. And this year, Craig, who knows, they may see each other 3 times again.
Yeah, good stuff there. And do want to say a special thanks for those Fort Loramie pictures we saw tonight. Fort Loramie photographer Ellen Werman provided those for us tonight, so special thanks to her. And with that, we're going to take a short break. And stay right there, though, because when we come back, we're going to talk some track and field, including that interview with Russia girls coach Brad Heaton.
Open stage at the leaving van. Music starts at 8 o'clock. You can find us here every Wednesday night. It's usually the same cats every week, but I can't tell you all their names. A cat and a junkie, all waiting for time to play. Everybody here's got something that we're trying to leave behind. We're all a little broken, looking for a place to hide. Get no answers, don't ask any questions. We're all here just looking for a high. And we're all beautifully broken here tonight.
Welcome back to the second half of Fish Report Live. Before the break, we were talking some baseball with Fort Loramie coach Bill Sturwold. And I want to go back to the sound room now and bring in the guys back there and talk to Heavy D in particular with his weekly segment on popular TV shows that Fish Report has either tied or passed up. And Heavy D, I know you always got good stuff. What do you have this week?
Yeah, so I did a little research, and we're just getting ready to pass the TV show Hunter. And if you recall Hunter, this was with Rick Hunter, the sergeant, and his sidekick Dee Dee McCall. All the beating up the bad guys and going home happy every night. And one interesting thing about this show is it lasted 7 seasons, and Dee Dee McCall was in the first 6 seasons. And when she dropped out, that thing folded like a house of cards. And I compare that to Fish Report Live. If I'd lose TK here, I think this whole thing would be done.
Absolutely. I think that was one of those late 80s, early 90s shows. I remember that show. And
yeah, it ran from 84 to 91. It was a good runner.
Matter of fact, I know some. Those two on that show. They weren't really a couple, and they never actually got together. And I was told that whether this is true or not, I don't know. But I was told they didn't want those two to become an item because it would become too much like another detective show called I don't know if you remember the show Heart to Heart.
Yep.
Remember that show?
Yep.
So they never wanted Hunter to become another Heart to Heart. So those two never became an item. And then you said the last season she actually wasn't even on the show.
She wasn't on the show, and after that it just faded.
Yeah, well, I can understand why. Dee Dee McCall was worth tuning in for. So,
yeah.
All right, good stuff back there, guys. Look forward to what we'll have next week, and let's get back to talking some sports, Ken. And last week we had West Liberty Salem senior sprinter Morgan Freihoff on the show. Was getting ready to talk about. We're previewing the Anna Invitational, ready for that track meet. Of course, that never happened because of the winter weather.
No, Craig, it didn't. Coach Stewart was well prepared, Craig. He had everything ready to go. One thing he can't control is the weather. He tries to do everything else there, but obviously the weather just did not cooperate. 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds, 35, 38 degrees, Craig. Just no place for participants in track and field to do that meet there. So, and the fans, they were probably pretty happy too. I don't think anybody wanted to sit through that one.
Well, yeah, I don't quite understand that. So baseball and softball, I understand you got a dirt diamond and stuff. You can't play when your diamond's underwater or soggy. But track and field, you're on an all-weather track. It's all weather. Why can't you get out there and run?
Well, Craig, that's really a good question. If you bundle up enough, there's no reason you really can't run. I guess they're really protecting the athletes against injuries, pulled hamstrings and muscles and things like that. With the cold weather, it takes a while to warm up. But, I can see your point. I understand pole vault last week would have been obviously dangerous.
True.
But other than pole vault, why they can't do the other events, it would have been horrible running conditions. But hey, I guess they could have done it.
Well, one good guy to ask about that might be our next guest, and he is the head girls coach of the Russia Raiders, Brad Heaton. We're happy to have him live on the phone right now. Coach Heaton, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, listen, Ken and I were just talking about last week's Anna Invitational getting canceled on account of the weather, and we don't understand, Coach. It's an all-weather track, so why can't you run on that in all types of weather? What's the deal with that?
Well, I don't know. I thought Friday night might have been a mistake. I woke up Saturday morning and thought probably a pretty good call.
Yeah. When you have snow drifts on your track, it's probably a good thing if you don't run, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we had Fort Loramie baseball coach Bill Sturwold on the show a little bit ago, and we were asking him about some mumbling about or a proposal where they moved the baseball season back a month and run it from like May through July. Now, he didn't think that was a very good idea with graduations and summer and everything. I guess I'll ask you the same question. I mean, what's your thoughts on, it's cold at the beginning of the season. It's hard for sprinters to warm up. You get some meets canceled. Would you be in favor of maybe moving the track season from, let's say, May to July?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It'd be, it's probably out of the question with, kids' summer vacations and all kind of stuff going on already planned. I'd probably be against it. I mean, what it is what it is. Whatever the weather is, you deal with it. And, I wouldn't want to miss the snow and the cold and the rain and the wind. I mean, we think of it as, sometimes we're outside and it's ugly in practice, but we like to think we're gaining an advantage on somebody that's over our competition that might be inside. So we like to think we're one up on somebody not running outside. So it toughens kids up, I think. You have to deal with it.
Well, that's a good way to look at it, and let's talk about your team this year, Coach. Before the season started, I was a little worried about this team because you graduated 2 huge point scorers from last year in hurdler Leah Francis and distance runner Emily Borchers. Is that something you've become accustomed to at Russia, always graduating top athletes, or was that a real concern of yours when the season started?
Well, it's nice when you got those kids, and I don't think you ever get accustomed to it, but you get accustomed to their points. And yeah, we was a little worried. I think we're a little more worried about losing Leah. Leah was, she was solid in her hurdles, and you could just about bank on some pretty high points in every meet she ran. Distance, we got some very good distance kids, so we're able to replace Emily's points, or maybe not all of them, but we'll replace them with maybe by committee. You won't replace them all, but with one individual. But yeah, I don't think you get accustomed to that. Those 2 kids are very good, and you hope they're around forever. Your competition, can't wait for them to graduate. But yeah, as far as their points and their leadership and everything they've done, they're missed. They're still missed.
Coach, hi, this is Ken. Let's talk a little bit about some of your top seniors this year. And we're going to start off with a girl that you know very well, and that happens to be your daughter, Lauren Heaton. Lauren was just recognized earlier on Monday as the WLIO TV Student Athlete of the Week. She's obviously already signed for a college scholarship with the U.S. Naval Academy. She runs in many different events for you. What is Lauren's main focus going to be this year?
Well, we talked about that a little bit. I think the main focus is staying healthy. Not talking injuries so much, but the last 3 years she's developed double ear infections between league and districts. So we want to stay on top of that this year because it really hampered her last year, and she didn't run as well down the stretch as she wanted to. So we're going to be on top of that and getting that checked out before the problem arises. As far as her main focus, she really wants to come back and she'd really like to win a 400 again. That's going to be really tough. There's a lot of kids, a lot of girls out there that's going to be a tough field, but she wants to get back to the times, her fast times that she ran when she was a freshman. She never run faster than she has when she was a freshman. And I think she's capable out this year without playing basketball. I think she's more fresh coming in. She just looks totally different at this point of the season. So, well, that 400 has always been her race, and that's what she really wants to excel at. Everything else is, we'll see what happens.
Coach, you mentioned that 400, and I remember sitting at last year's state track meet, and the girl that won will be back this year. Lauren will be back this year, and there was another girl that was also a defending champion. So there was going to be no less than 3, and actually I thought maybe 4 defending champions potentially in that 800 this year, which is just unbelievable because I think one girl had won it in Division II and now she's Division III or something crazy like that. So you mentioned the competition in that 400. You're exactly right. Just an abundance amount of athletes there. Let's talk a little bit about your distance runners, in particular senior Molly Kearns. This young lady has improved substantially from her freshman year to now. She's put a lot of time and effort into her running. I know she has a great work ethic. How has Molly changed from her freshman year to her current status and leadership on your team?
Yeah, a lot of things you just said right there. Several things jump out. Molly's strength and speed have really gotten better each year she's run, and it's hard for a kid to enhance speed. You can tweak your speed a little bit, but Molly is so much faster now than when she was a freshman. It's really incredible. It comes through hard work, and I think the other thing is, she's run behind Emily Borchers for 3 years, and that's been nothing but good for Molly. And now she don't have to do that. This is Molly's time, and she's well aware of that. This is Molly's time to shine, and like you say, she's worked very hard, and she's going to have a heck of a year here.
All right, Coach. Hey, listen, one more question. We'll let you go. But, you have a lot of other talented girls on this team. Names like we didn't even mention, like Shea Gubo and Grace York, Christina Garkey, Emily Bowman, to name a few. And they'll be on display this Saturday at the annual Minster Memorial. Rushie's been going to this meet, Coach, for as long as I can remember. What do you like about that Minster meet?
Oh, Minster. We always look forward to Minster because usually the weather starts getting better, and that's what they're saying for this Saturday. So you look for the times and distances and heights and what have you to be maybe the best you've done this year. But it's a meet where you a lot of local talent, and I don't know if you go back through all the events of the last let's take last year. If you're able to compete in that event at that meet, you're doing pretty well. You're probably headed to state. So there's a lot of local talent. It's a fun meet to watch, and you get a chance to really evaluate where you're at and how you're stacked up against some of your competition that you're going to see districts, regionals.
Well, listen, Coach, we wish you the best of luck this Saturday at Minster. You're doing a great job with the girls program, and best of luck the rest of the season and the Shelby County League Championship and the district regional, and hopefully get some girls at the state level.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep, thanks.
All right, that was the head coach of the Russia girls track team, Brad Heaton. Good to talk to him. And Kenny's right, that Minster Memorial, always some of the top talent in the state is always there every year.
Yep, Craig, you got a lot of MAC schools, you got a lot of Shelby County schools, and then you bring down schools from Crestview and Liberty Benton and schools like that as well. So top talent, and like Coach Heaton just said there, if you can perform well there's a good chance you've got the talent to go extremely far in the postseason.
All right, listen, before we close things up tonight, I want to go back to the sound room again and check in with our buddy TK back there. I know he's got some news. I don't know if it's baseball, softball. TK, what do you got back there?
We've got a hodgepodge of things going on tonight. We had so many games and so much going on. Can't look at too many of them because there's too much to talk about. But some random facts from yesterday. Start out with St. Henry over Minster 2-0. Just another game, but it wasn't. Mitch Stallman from St. Henry pitches a 13 strikeout perfect game, a pitcher's dream. I think there's probably not a pitcher out there from Little League to the pros that doesn't want to throw one of those perfect games, and congratulations to Mitch Stallman and doing that already this early in this season. So those 5 or 6 days off must have helped his arm a lot. Also down in Greenville, softball coach Jared Leland hits number 350 and wins for softball down there, so congratulations to coach there. And over in Piqua, we have even more going on. Blake Wright for Piqua High School shuts out Sydney with a no-hitter last night. So another gem of a night from the pitching mound. Want to also touch on this weekend. We talked to our lady Raider softball last week. So this weekend they head up to Bradford for a tri-meet or tri-tournament, I guess you would call it. Bradford, Versailles, and Russia, 3 tough teams. Actually, 2 tough teams we know of, and an up-and-coming Russia team. We hope they're up for it. Bradford lost to Versailles about a week or so ago, as well as Russia losing a close one to Versailles. So I think it's going to be some great softball and some great weather. We'll see how our girls are doing. They're coming on strong, had a couple of really nice wins lately. So if you want to see some softball, head to Bradford Saturday, and you'll see some good softball.
Yeah, always a good tournament over there. And all that on top of, like you said, the Zach Richard Classic this weekend. A lot of good stuff going on.
A lot of baseball. I know Russia's taking on Arcanum on Saturday, doubleheader. That's a Division III powerhouse there. It'll be a great challenge for the Russia Raider baseball team as well. So
Arcanum's got a pretty nice pitcher that just signed with Ohio State, didn't he?
Yes, they do. A pitcher by the name of Cole.
Connor Pohl.
Connor Pohl just signed. Seen him play last year, Craig. They were Division IV last year. The good news is for the Russia and Fort Loramies of the world, Arcanum is now Division III, so you don't have to worry about facing Connor Pohl in the postseason. I tell you what, this guy is a real flamethrower. He can bring the heat.
Good stuff there. All right, and one more thing to get to, and that is tonight's poll question. So, Ken, if you could read that to the viewers again, we'll have TK check on the results.
For our viewers out there, the OHSAA baseball season opens its regular season March 26th and concludes the first week in June. Would you be if you had your say, would you keep the dates the same as they currently are, or would you vote to move the season back a month to late April, finishing in early July? TK, what do our listeners have to say about that question?
Well, I think our listeners are cold parents and not coaches or players, because 75% of them want to move it back a month to make it a little bit warmer. So
I wonder if Coach Sturwold helped us answer that question tonight.
I'd have to vote for Coach Sturwold's choice there. I'd be totally against moving. I can't see ending a high school baseball season on the 4th of July. I just think you lose too much interest with all those kids that have graduated.
Yeah, they're getting into the country concert mode at that point. They're going to be wanting to play baseball.
We don't want to cross them lines, do we?
No.
All right, good stuff, and that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. I do want to say special thanks to our guest, Fort Loramie coach Bill Sturwold and Russia girls track coach Brad Heaton. Ken and I and the crew will all be back again next week, same time, same place. Until then, have a great rest of the week, and good night, everyone.
Hanging at the fish report. 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 For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report.